Well, I knew this day was going to come because Father Alec and I spoke many times about his impending death because it didn't just start last week. I'm going to tell you the story of how I met Father Alec. I didn't shave today. When I was trying to regain the faith I knew I had, it was being, how can I put it, interrupted constantly. Every time I would attempt to go to a church to renew my faith, and I would try to talk to a priest, that whatever parish I went to, it seemed like the priest was always busy. They didn't have time, or they go see my secretary, and then you couldn't get it. So there was no, I couldn't get any kind of guidance, and I needed guidance. I wanted to renew my faith. I'm a Catholic, a traditional Catholic. I believe in the pre-Vatican II Church. And Father Alec McClellan was also an aficionado of the Latin Mass and the Novus Ordo. He did both. He listened to Pope Benedict, and he did his best to maneuver as an older man, you know. So he was saying Mass at one of the local churches, and he was filling in for one of the priests. And he was saying the things that I wanted to hear a priest say when he spoke about the television and the influence on the family and how families were being torn apart. He talked about Mother Mary, like in a way that I could understand, because I believe the same as he, that we have a mother is the most important part of our life, is our mother. And Mother Mary is the mother of all. She gave birth to her son, Jesus Christ. And I believe that he is responsible for all of the joy and the love that comes into a human heart. And he's there to defeat all that pain and anguish when called upon. Father Alec McClellan would talk about things that I believed, but I never heard any other priest saying. So I made it a point to get to know him. So I approached him after Mass one day, and I asked him if we could sit down. He invited me to his apartment up on Xavier Drive. He was the last priest living in that building that was owned by the diocese. He had a small little apartment. He wasn't wealthy by any means. He had a vehicle. He had his pensions that normal people get, and he had a bit of savings. But he wasn't a wealthy priest or anything like that. But his life was so humble and so dignified that it was alien to me. And to me, it was like, why would he even talk to me? Because I'm a renegade. Now, a renegade is not a rebel. Satan is a rebel. A renegade is an individual who leaves one belief system and turns to another belief system. He becomes a renegade to that. Well, I left the left side. The Union, BS. I left all of that left hokey pokey that we see now that's dominating the world. They're gone so far. They're communists, and they're playing games. And I became a renegade, and only for the fact I became a renegade, and I came back to church. because I do believe that the Catholic Church is the only salvation, and always has been. So, Father Alec reinforced in me something that had been hidden for a long time. That was my devotion to our Holy Mother. That came to me from my mother and from my grandmother, who never lied to me. And so when I compared notes with Father Alec in our chats starting off, the COVID hit. And we became closer because at that time I started to prepare meals for him. This was a couple of years ago. And he would come over, pick up his meals, and take them home. And I enjoyed cooking for him because he liked my food. Back then he was eating rather well, and then all of a sudden, uh, he wasn't up to snuff when it comes to energy wise, and they found cancer in his stomach. And before I could actually help him change his diet, at that time they took out a lot of his stomach in April of 2023. At that point, he survived the surgery, but the chemotherapy nearly killed him. And he was recovering in McGilvery's, and I started to visit, and I helped him to regain his appetite. I started to go to his house and attend Mass. He got stronger and stronger as the months went by, and I was preparing some meals for him, and he started to take some recommended supplements to boost his immune system and to get his gut back in order. And I helped him with a friend, Elwood, to obtain that type of probiotic and enzymes that he needed for his stomach. And slowly and gradually, he couldn't drive to Antigonish without stopping twice to rest. But right after that, the magnesium and the collagen and the vitamin D and all of the things that you need, he could actually stand and say the Latin Mass for an hour and 10 minutes, which I began. Now, before we go there, I have to tell you how that started, because I had a devotion where I found Our Lady of Good Success, Quito, Ecuador. Sister Mariana Torres was a small, beautiful girl who came over from Spain, and she was cloistered in a small convent in Quito. And over the years, she became devoted more and more to Our Blessed Lady, and you should read up more about Our Lady of Good Success. Because in her writing, she said, she was talking 400 years ago about what would happen today. And she was right on. She said that the church would be attacked, and that priests would be attacked, the children would be led astray, the Mass would be cut into pieces, and everything she was saying was happening. And she also said that you should find a retired priest to care for and to learn the Latin Mass. Well, there you go. There was Father Alec, and we became good friends. And I started to attend the Latin Mass at his apartment. Oh, we became very good, very close. Like, I don't think there's anybody that spent more time with him in the past year than me. Every day. When his recovery from his stomach cancer took a bit of a turn in December of 2023, I noticed that he independently, he was doing his own breakfast, and I was doing basically suppers. But I realized he wasn't eating properly, and so I started to do his olive meals. I would go over early in the morning and make sure that he took his medications, and he was taking his oatmeal, and I would make him a nice breakfast, and I would return at lunchtime, and I would make his lunch, and I also I got a foot bath, and I would do his feet every day because he started to have problems with his stomach, and it took 3 or 4 weeks, but we got through it, and we got him to all his appointments to his doctors, and they found that the cancer had spread to his bladder. And at that point, uh, his diet was was good enough at the time to maintain. He was eating really well, for his stomach was so small. He kept saying, but he ate everything I made. He liked my meals. They were all fresh, and we we bonded over the cooking part of it, and he was there for me to hear all of my life stories. He heard everything. He heard about this accident you see here when I was killed with a hammer and brought back to life by my mother, who was working emergency. And then the miracle of her kidneys starting to work after 13 months of dialysis. Never happened before to anyone. She got 10 years of life before she passed. But this was all due to the rosary and the prayers to Our Lady. And as I went through these traumatic events with Father Alec over a long period of time, I felt finally in my life I found someone who was actually listening to me. And he never judged me. And I'm a sinner. Okay, my past, everybody knows about Glenn Muse. They don't know the real Glenn Muse. They just hear all kinds of hyperbole, and they hear all kinds of stories, and they make their decision based on the Cape Breton Post or rumors of people that don't like me. But if you were to speak to people that actually know me, you know there's a different Glenn. Father Alec and I bonded, and I loved the man. I told him, I love you, Father. I never met anybody like you in my life. And the blessings that flowed from the way that he treated me were branched out, because then I had the courage and the faith to go forward to help other people. I have been helping a lot of people, but it was never in an organized way and giving credit to Our Lady and her son Jesus, because no son will refuse the mother. And that's why we like Mary so much. That's why we say the rosary, to help us. Go talk to your son. Maybe he can help us. Well, Father Alec was devoted to Our Lady. He was a Marian priest. And he devoted his life, 60 years an ordained priest. He devoted his life to helping others. And it's been a blessing for me over the past couple of years, especially the last year. I'm sad because I'm going to miss him. But I'm also wonderfully, wonderfully happy because he is now home with our mother. And he managed to stay alive until the 1st of October, which is the beginning of the month of October, which is the beginning of the month of Mary. We have Our Lady of Fatima on the 13th in the middle of the month. But the very first day, October 1st, is this picture here. You see this? This is our St. Teresa and the infant baby Jesus. That feast is October 1st. It was the one that he admired the most, he told me. He told me a lot of things that I can't share, but I told him a lot of things, and we bonded so close. And I introduced him to a lot of people. And they sat with him. I would leave them, and he would hear confessions, and He would bless them, and there have been miracles. I know one guy's cancer has been cured. I see him every day. Another guy I know, his hearing was improving. There's more. He understood, and the attacks that I have to endure, because the evil one is at me constantly. And I have to fend him off with the rosary. I fend him off with mental prayer, meditation, and charity. And here's the big one. After going through history with Father and reading books together, I managed to cobble together a better picture of the Catholic Church. Well, I went back to the monks who started everything and kept it together and maintained the continuity, that even though we had popes that were off the rails at times, we had some great popes. We had some bad ones, but we had the monks that were always there, and the nuns that were always there creating things and helping people. A diocese was formed when small little groups had their own little worshiping and their own priests, and the diocese was formed, and they helped each other, and the priest was the focal point, the center of that little community. And all through history, that's the way it was, until the greedy Protestants come along and wanted all the money, wanted to get married whenever they want, couldn't control their lust and their passions, and they had turned up, they started their journey to try to destroy the church. Well, they continued to try, but they'll never succeed, because the church are the people who believe that the magisterium, the Holy Catholic Church, the keys that were given to Peter, was a symbol that someone had to be in charge, and that turned out to be Peter in the beginning. So as we went through history, we had all kinds of popes, but bishops are key to maintaining discipline within their diocese, and they report to a cardinal and up the chain. But when you look at it, nobody runs those dioceses or the small parishes. All of that money doesn't go to Rome, to the Vatican. Money that's collected keeps the church going, pays the graveyard, pays the food for the priest. You think they're getting rich? They're not getting rich. And in this whole child scandal, things happened in the 60s and 70s because the church was infiltrated by a bunch of communists that got into the seminaries, and the result was disaster. I think we got to be worried about teachers these days more than we do priests. If you have a look around, all these different organizations are now getting rid of their diversity, equity, and inclusion because it's ruining their companies, ruining policy. And that's what the devil is doing. He's getting in and causing confusion amongst children, amongst families. You look at a TV show, it's the kids that are making fun of the parents all the time in these shows. Basic, laugh tracks. Ha, 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 ha. Like, this is bizarre. Father Alec was right. The TV in the living room replaced the rosary. A psychiatrist replaced the priest by taking over the confessional and charging money. And the psychiatrists started from a group of people that you're not allowed to talk about. Okay? And they run all of psychiatry. And they took away the couch. They made the couch into a place where they could take advantage of women. And priests were always in the confessional in a little room where they heard your sins. And it turned around that the psychiatrists now are the new priests. They have been for years. And they give drugs to keep everybody in line. And you spend lots of money to ask you, how does that make you feel? That's it. But there's nothing to back it up. There's no faith. There's nothing to recommend that you do to make a change in your life. People say they're having their nerves are bad. Well, what are you going to do about it? You can either be nervous or you can be anxious. And all this mental health crap in between is just that crap. A way to get you taking pills and not dealing with your problems. And most of the problems are trauma. The discussions we had, Father and Alec and I would sometimes on the phone for a couple of hours, the battery would go dead. But it was better on the phone because he could hear better. His hearing was you had to be looking at him, and his hearing aids helped. But his hearing was I could tell you a story about that, but not today. How he lost his hearing, but as for me, I lost the best friend I ever had. Like my brother Chuck used to say, you can fit your friends on the couch with you when you're laying down. If you have one good friend, maybe two, you're doing well. I have a couple in my life. And you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. There's something to be said about that. I've always been the black sheep of this family that I live in. I've never been invited to any of my, except my sister Shelley and Bernie, those two. Everybody else, nobody else wants to see me. I've never met my nephews and nieces because they all have me categorized. It's a shame. This is the things I have to endure. My son won't talk to me now for 3 years. I pray for him daily that he'll come to his senses, but I can't change that. He'd rather have little fur dogs than children, so I guess that's his decision. So I'm sad, but I'm happy. And I'm sure I'll have more to say about Father Alec further on, but he passed away today. And this evening I will pray the rosary and again ask for guidance, and hopefully things will continue in a positive way, because I'm being attacked from every angle. The federal government, the provincial government, the local government, all of the government agencies, they were banning my products because I didn't get along with the LBGT alphabet crew. They have me charged in federal court because I won't say that a man is a woman. This is so bizarre. But this is Canada. This is communism today. And I was so happy to make friends with Father Alec McClellan because he kept me focused. I'm the only one in this country standing up to these morons. They're trying to take over your families. They want to convince your kids that they're not what they are. They got them in school for 8 hours, brainwashing them into this gender ideology. You better wake up, and you better take the iPads and the cell phones away from them, because they're going to turn into little morons. If you think that an iPad for a 6-year-old is a good thing, then you have to get your head checked. There's so much filth available on there, and so many people. Like, there's this one guy called Jeffrey Marsh. He's on TikTok. He tells kids, don't tell your parents. You tell me in a private chat. Don't tell your parents anything. You can trust me. That's what pedophiles do. And why is it all these people want to talk to children all the time? How come they're not out reading the Steingers? No, they want to talk to kids because they want to convert them into this radical gender bull. Anyway, I said enough, because I'll just get off on that tangent. I digress a little. But my main thought tonight, my main prayers, my main feelings are devoted to Father Alec McClellan and to Our Lady, who has been his guide and his heavenly mother, like ours, for so long. Now, I kept my face out of here because I'd rather you see Our Lady. And right there is Our Lady of Akita below. That's another story you should read. Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady of Fatima. Avoid Medjugorje. That's a trap. Good night.